Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to a new week here on Newer TV English. And it's that time of the week when you start thinking about that show that you always love on Newer TV English, and it's the Youth Circle. Welcome once again to another 30 minutes interaction. I have some amazing people with me today to discuss a very important topic. But before then, the Youth Circle playlist is available on YouTube. Please keep following, sharing, commenting, and talking about it to people around you. Domestic violence has a profound and lasting impact on children, affecting their emotional, psychological, social, and even physical well-being. The effects can be direct and indirect, and the severity often depends on factors such as child age, the intensity of the violence, and the length of exposure. Our topic of the day is the impact of domestic violence on children. With me today are Mr. Yacinthe Ketemefi and Miss Ngozi.
Yeah.
You are welcome.
Thank you very
Please,
much.
for the people viewing us from the house, can you present yourself?
Yacinthe Ketemefi, what can I say? I'm a marketer and at the same time Bible school teacher. And pastor.
Okay.
I pastor a church for over 30 years now.
And you're forgetting one thing. You work hard.
I work at New Word TV.
Miss
I also
Ngozi.
work at New Word TV.
Great,
That's all. Thank
great.
you.
Okay, I am Ikechukwu Ngozi by name. I'm into education management. I direct a school and I'm a lecturer as well.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
They are both my special guests today. They always come here. They are always with me here on this. So today we are discussing, as I said, the impact of domestic violence on children. I'll ask this question to know what is domestic violence.
When we talk about domestic violence, it breaks into so many aspects. Kind of things that happen that sometimes we don't consider to be violence. It may be a voice that is taken upper than its normal, or action that occurs around a kind of relationship that have to do with parents and children at home. Sometimes it's just some simple things, but that will affect the child at the deepest you cannot really understand. Yeah.
Okay, domestic violence. I'll start by explaining what violence is. Violence can be seen as, a force. It could be physical, it could be verbally, that, might afterwards inflict pain, injury, or even cause death, as the case may be. Then domestic violence, the word do means home, It's any violence that can happen around the home. It may not necessarily be between the family. It could be within the neighborhood or the community, just like, the statement that it takes a community to train a child. So any violence or any abuse or force of power that affects the child negatively around this jurisdiction, the home, community, and neighborhood. Thank you.
Because this topic is very sensible, especially when it has to do with children. And we notice a lot of these problems in our areas, in our homes, in people living around us. So I'll ask this: what are the signs of domestic violence? How will I know that I'm being domestically violated?
Okay. One of the signs is that the child, let me go with the child, or the victim become very parasomnic in nature, which means they start having sleep paralysis, they find it difficult to sleep, they become insomniac in nature, they find it difficult to even manage their environment. Another thing is, for these victims, they might try to, make excuses for the actions that is happening to them. You see that person there's always behavioral changes,
Yes.
The child, maybe that child used to be polite before, you start noticing some kind of aggression, even when that thing does not necessarily warrant an aggression. The person is just, angry for nothing, afraid. There's just a whole lot of signs. But this aggression, behavioral changes, withdrawal, the child begins to withdraw from, his peers and all that. So there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot of signs to see or to look out for in people who go through DV. Yeah.
Okay.
I can also put it in two major aspects: the physical and the psychological. The physical, as she says, you see the child who change into expression. The child who used to be joyful, you can see him dull, close up, and not easy to access to. And the psychological is more sensible.
Yes.
The child that has some behavior that are changing in a way, you know that there is a confusion somewhere, especially with a child. You can, unless you speak to him before you know, and even speaking with this kind of child, you have to know that something is going wrong. So many a times, in these two ways, you can easily
identify.
Identify those kind of trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything to say about the psychological and emotional?
Psychologically, it's like them being depressed. There's chronic stress, and this can lead to vulnerability, where the child, always wants to look for love because there's no love around them. And another thing is there's a sign of hopelessness and even helplessness. They are not, they are just always weak, as the case may be. Opposite, it can always be helpless, or they can tend to show aggression. As the case may be.
So, talking about self-esteem, how can violence at home can shape a child's self-esteem?
Let's put it this way. We grow having around us a circle that gives us confidence. Yeah. But when it is broken, it means that the skeletons of this person are broken somewhere. It's just like somebody who has an accident. There is a place where this person will not feel well. Yeah. So this is the self-esteem of the person is broken at a place. And that's all. Okay. That can cause so many other things as the person is growing.
For every child, the home is supposed to be like a heaven for the person. It's true. But if, there's domestic violence around the home, it becomes so scattered for that child. The child begins to see the society as somewhere very dangerous, because the home is like the first stage of socialization. So if the first stage of socialization is already damaged, is already scattered, there's no peace around. The child will grow up seeing the society as the same thing. And self-esteem, like you said, even research has proven that a child who is living with DV, or who is around where there's domestic violence, their brains are suppressed. Okay, they tend to prematurely age. There's always this kind of characteristics. They develop, their development is usually slow. Okay, they don't believe in themselves. There's no confidence again. They don't even believe that they can be anything, because from the first stage of socialization, that is the home, there's no peace. There's no esteem, there's no confidence. So it's difficult for you to go out and become who you want to be, because the first stage is already broken.
Miss Ngozi, like a lecturer, and Mr. Yacent, like an apostle, a pastor. Do you come across those cases in churches and schools?
I do. Let me put it this way. I will just give you an example. This one is it has made a long way from childhood unto adulthood. I met a woman who was quarreling with her mother. And I went to ask why this, because in normal circumstances, this person was not supposed to quarrel with the mother. And the person told me that while she was child, around 5 years, she was put into the guard of the uncle, who is supposed to be the junior brother of the mother, because the mother found something to do, and she cannot be moving her around. And in this house, the child that she was, there was a moment that the mother-in-law, the wife of the uncle, was giving them food, and she preferred her own than she should give things equally. And she found herself in a violence. And from this moment, she says, it is because my mother brought me there. It is because my uncle does not love me. It is because the wife of the uncle also does not love me. So from this age, 5 years, until I was talking to the person while she was 40 years.
Wow.
So
she carried that luggage.
It's a lot of
she carries this.
damage.
I had to be patient, ask her where is the problem before she was able to explain the whole things to me. So imagine this. I met cases like this. I met some other people who says, I've gone out of the house because my mother used to beat my father.
Wow.
And many cases. So this affects society if it's no, and church is like a hospital. There are some that are very sensible that we cannot talk about.
Yes. And the thing is that I think violence has to do with the way we treat our children too, because if you prefer one child, maybe you prefer her more than the other person, that will create something like hatred and all those things.
It's already a battle or a war.
A war
in the house. Yes.
It's very.
Yes, this is something we see most of the time. Even not most of the time, almost all the time. Okay. Sometimes the parents don't even know that they are domestically violating the rights of their children. This may not necessarily be you beating that child. Like I said, violence could be verbally or physically. So you, each time that child comes to you, you're already like shouting at that child, get out from here, this can affect that child. Like I said, affect the esteem of that child. So you verbally abusing the child would see like there's no need going to mom. Okay, I've heard about a story. The girl used to, every time she's in school, she's always crying. Why are you crying? Oh, my mom is always crying. Now I'm like, why is your mom always crying? And daddy is beating mommy. So that alone is making the child feel like she's not supposed to just be around there. You can imagine a girl in her 8th, you're still very young, she's just 8 and she's thinking about life that way. And if you have conversation with these kids, you'll be hearing things like, I'll never get married. I don't want a husband. Husbands always beat. There's no beautiful thing again about the home. And vice versa. It can also be the woman. You see also the boys also saying, I'll never get married. I never want to have a wife because of the way my mom talks to my dad and all. So sometimes this is something I sit down to ask myself, do the parents actually understand the impact of domestic violence in their children, or do they just do it in front of them and they are still kids? They are not kids, they are watching, and it affects the way they think, the way they see life, their perspective about life changes. So we should be very careful on how we expose our children to DV.
That's true.
It's true. And you see some people getting married and they will start treating their wives or their husband the
because
same way
of the way because of their training and all that. So if you watch 90%, or let me not say 60% of people, young adults who involve themselves into domestic violence, that's with their partners, maybe their girlfriends, or this is something they've over time watched their parents do. So they feel like it is a normal thing. If you talk to me, I'm gonna slap you because my father used to slap my mom. So it's like a thing for them.
It is not a normal thing, but they inherit.
Yes,
there are so many things that comes into this home violence issue that we shouldn't put aside. You inherit what is happening around you. Just as when you have a father who dress well, you end up dressing well. The same thing. There are so many, as she just said, I met a couple. The woman used to beat the husband. And when you ask the question, she will say, this is normal because he has to submit. And I say, where do you learn these things from? She say, in my house, there is no, my mom was the keeper of the home. And I say, wow, this is not normal. But the same way, vice versa, there are some homes, the man will not speak 2 times. When he says it the second time, he says slap. So the house becomes like a battleground. So this is inherited by the kids. You see you go to some places, a kid, when you meet him, you can never imagine that this kid can abuse people. You can hear, hey, you are fool, you are this.
Because this is what they watch their parents do.
Environment in the house. So they inherit this thing. They can say, oh, we don't like it, but they will inherit it if nothing is done. So, yes, forcefully, this is how it happens.
And those cases happen to when maybe you are a man of the house and you are not working. And it's your wife that is working every day and is bringing money to the house. It will be difficult for that woman to respect you.
You know.
Not all the time.
Not all the time, but maybe when it reach a time, let's say you are married to a lady for like maybe 5 years and you are not working. And it's that lady that is taking care of the house for like 5 years. When that lady will come to a point in her life, she'll start behaving violently with you.
I want to say something. Yes. I don't know. I'm not married, but I feel like communication is key.
That's
okay, there should be a level of communication.
Yeah.
Now, before you got married to this person, what is your level of communication with that person? That's why it is said that people who become friends first before they go into marriage, they tend to stay longer than people who just met today and say, I will love you, I want to marry you. Because if this person is your friend and you have good communication with the person, I don't think when this person don't have, you communicate rightly. Oh, mommy, I don't have this money now, and you are working towards it. Not just you don't have the money and each time you sit down at home and expect me to always provide. This can always trigger the anger. In fact, when you say a little thing, are you working? Do you have a choice? So alone that can trigger a lot of things. But communication, actually, how do you communicate things? If you're working towards it and you communicate to your partner, I don't think that would be an issue. So working, just try to navigate things around.
Before violence can happen, like there has to be a problem in the house that will cause that violence. Or maybe the person takes alcohol or is on drugs or something like that, can like also bring those fighting in the house and all those
all those things. If I may say it, there are fundamental things when they are missing. Violence comes. Somebody who is frustrated will become violent. You may not understand. The example you are giving, I will give a contrary example. Somebody who is working, who has been shut off of his work for no reason. When he gets home, this person will be violent. He will not understand. And at the same time, as I say, there are some fundamental things when they are missing. Violence comes. When, as you say, when it is one part that is active and the other part is not active, frustration comes. You may be loving the way
you can communicate as much as
it, but there is a kind of frustration that comes in. At the same time, as Miss Ngozi was saying it, marriage is a project. Before you get into marriage, you must be secured. It's just like somebody who is investing in something. What are you investing in? At which range are you investing? What is the guarantee of this investment? If these things comes into communication, but you have to know the reason why you are being engaged into this or that. And if you have all these things secured, when things are not working the way you want it, communication can fill the gap. But if you just break into it, where is the other one coming from? What are the fundamentals of his life? When you come together and things are not working, and you vow that you are not breaking out of this thing, you will create a football field
Yes.
or a boxing field where every day things that are coming in will create frustration. Sometimes people are not prepared to have children, but the moment children come, you don't calculate the range on which your wife can give birth. And within a year, you have 2 children. Meanwhile, the incomes are
not balancing.
are not balanced. You end up becoming furious.
Yes,
And
I'm
people-
You start insulting your wife.
frustrated.
Why are you giving birth like that? As if she was the one impregnating herself.
That is it. So when we talk about domestic violence and all these things that are attached to it, there are so many things, and we need to know where we are going to before to prevent this violence. It is a whole lot of things
Work,
that
yes.
we need to work on.
That's true.
So, how does witnessing violence at home, especially at home, affect a child's social life? Let's talk about work. Now we are coming to work because I'm working at a place where I have to be among a lot of people.
Yeah.
I have to be communicating with people, but that's the case where I've been violated in the house. I don't have let's say I don't have my mind. I don't really have my mind. I don't know what I do. I don't really find myself among those people I'm working with. How will I behave with those people? How will my social life be like?
Your social life will definitely decline. There's no two ways about it. That's why domestic negativity or the dangers of DV can never be overemphasized, because you know any victim of DV would definitely be declining in esteem. Their self-confidence reduces. Okay, they don't believe in themselves because why? They feel like they have already violated their normal or natural, will I say natural human rights. When you want to speak out and then they are telling you shut up, you don't have the right to speak here. So when you come out in the social environment, in the public, it definitely makes you to be isolated. You start isolating yourself. You start feeling intimidated, even when you know that you have what it takes to overcome maybe a particular challenge, because you're used to them shouting at you at home. When you come out to the public and then somebody is saying, who knows how to say this, you say, let me not say this, so before they will shout at me. That thing would keep ringing in your mind. And they also lack concentration. If you notice for every victim of DV, they always lack concentration, because each time they are here, their mind is already calculating. Let me rush home before they slap me. When I get, they are always absent-minded. Absenteeism is for sure. In their academics, in the public, wherever they find themselves, they believe that they are just commoners, they are nobody. But that's not true. But this is what DV has caused in them, because it's a psychological thing. It even affects them psychopathologically. So it affects the way they reason, the way they see life. They want to be withdrawn. They don't want to do too much because they feel they can always get violated. That's it.
Actually, we can even go further by saying that they are just like possessed. They are just like possessed. There is part of them which is under an external force control. And as she was saying, they are. There is a word in French that we say evasive. They are just like dreamers.
Yes.
They believe that they are anticipating on things, and at the same time they become how can I say it? They are just like they lose their ways into whatever they are doing. So they cannot be concentrate, they cannot be focused, and most of the times they don't even have projects. Because at the same time they are thinking about something, there are other things that comes in such a way that they lose hope
in themselves.
They don't have any properties that they can follow and finish. And as she was saying, they lose they lose confidence in themselves.
Themselves.
So when you see them, you know that this person is.
They can never
Socialize.
socialize,
They
you
are
know,
not
unless
stable.
they
Yeah.
they go through a lot of therapy,
Therapy.
have good people around them
yes.
before they can overcome this. Because there's a saying that what you are afraid of, what you always get scared of, might actually come to you because you're too conscious that. Let me not do this because I am scared I have to
yes.
fail. You've not started this journey. You've not started the project, and you're already scared that
of it.
you're going to fail. Because from the basics, I believe in the family.
Yeah.
That's the home. Like I mentioned, though, community, society, schools, and this is the domestic.
Yeah.
This is the home that the child, have to
Yes.
see
Yeah,
before
to
they
see.
grow up. So if these basic people are not, inflicting violence in these children, they would not grow well. They will not see possibilities. They will
Yes.
not have visions. They will not have projects. They will not be what they want to become.
So as a lecturer, as a director, as a pastor, I'll come back again. What are the help system? Because you're about to conclude today's show. So what are the help or intervention that we can bring in to help people, like people that are facing those kind of challenges in their homes?
There is one thing that I used to say. Children's responsibilities of first for the parents.
Yes.
So when you have a child, no matter what you are living, you have to make sure your child is not a victim of this. You have to make sure you are giving him the best. Even if you don't have, you have to sacrifice to give him and make him stable. Because when you are training a child today on this domestic violence, tomorrow you are creating a gangster. Somebody who will end up doing greater than what you have been showing. So it is the parent's responsibility first. Before you can have aid from outside. You have to help yourself by putting things in order all around you.
Okay. I think there should be parent support. Most times, like you said, most times the foundation of violence in the home is because of the frustration. If parents could be enlightened that, doing this thing around the children, there's no child, even the baby self can even be affected, because sometimes they start crying unnecessary. You don't know it's because of maybe the little disagreement that you're having with your wife. So if parents could be enlightened, because they are like the first stage of socialization for that child. Okay. Another thing is organizing programs that can enlighten children to speak up, because any child that is going through DV is vulnerable. They become vulnerable because they need love around them, and this is where you see them being too exposed, that when somebody just tell them I love you, they can even rape them, because they just want somebody to say these things that they don't hear from the home. So if children can be enlightened in schools, maybe in churches, in their children department, tell them more about domestic. If you're being oppressed, speak out. I believe in telling children to speak out. When somebody is doing they have to know this thing for them to know that it is wrong for you to do this thing as an adult to them. If they don't know, when you're doing it, they are smiling because they feel like it's a normal thing. But when they are enlightened that this thing is wrong, they will always know how to speak up, maybe to the nearest responsible adult, okay, or call the cops or anything. And also creating skills. When you see they are too depressed or something, you can engage them in skills that they like, so that they can be busy. They will not be distracted. When that child or when that teenager or when that youth or the victim is engaged in an activity, I don't think there will be room for distraction or low self-esteem or anything. They start believing in themselves and all that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to Miss Ngozi for making our
You're
time
welcome.
to come to this show today, and Mr. Yasint, always here for us. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
And before we close the chapter of today's episode, I want to give a shout out to my production team, my producer Jerry Tona Matiogbe, to my director Richard Korofanga, to the whole production team, Senyor, thank you very much, to Florent Ekwe, to Richard Amedesu, Rebecca, thank you very much to you guys for the great job you are doing. And the Youth Circle is showed on TV each and every Friday at 11:15 a.m. and 6:15 p.m. and repeat on Sundays at 6:15 p.m. Till I come your way next week, be safe and stay safe. Bye-bye.